Hello Sumate, you are welcome back to my channel. My name is Efere Mercy, the creative hands behind Come Fashion. So in this video, we'll be learning how to make this beautiful two-piece you see me wear. If this looks like what you want to know how to make, you can stick around. Let's get right into it. Now I'll be showing us how to make the pants and the top in this video, so let's get right into it. First thing, fold your fabric either into 2 or into 4. I folded mine into 4, so I will determine how big I want the top. So I'm using 20 inches, right? That's for the width of the top, how big I want it, like the sleeve part. Then I will come down by 1 inch from shoulder slope from the 20 inches I marked. Then my shoulder width is 3 inches. Now for the back shoulder depth, I'm using 1.5. Then I will go ahead and connect it like this. Now if you want your top bigger than it is on my body, you know that your measurement will be more than 18 inches from the center, right? So it's not going to be 20 inches. You make it more than. If you don't want it that big, you make it smaller, right? So this is me just connecting the shoulder slope. Don't forget that if you're connecting your shoulder slope, you connect it to the point where the shoulder width starts. So as you see me do in the video, the next thing now is to determine the width of the sleeve. How big do you want your sleeve to be? So from that 1 inch we came down with, you see the 1 inch we came down with from shoulder slope, it is from there you will determine the width of your sleeve. So from the slope now, from the 1 inch for the shoulder slope, I went down by 10 inches. So it means that the width of the sleeve, I want it to be 10 inches. Now that 10 inches, this is me just determining the 20 inches that I measure at the shoulder line to make sure that it is equal and straight. Do you understand? So now after connecting my sleeve now, this is the sleeve part I'm connecting like this. After connecting the sleeve, you see where the sleeve is resting on, like the 10 inches we came down with from the shoulder slope. That's where I will go ahead and impute my hip measurement. Please, you are not using your bust measurement for this. You are imputing your hip measurement. Then I'll go ahead and impute my hip measurement. Then after that, I will add extra 3.5 of an inch because I want it big. So it's a straight top. You don't have to do some parts like the bust part smaller than the hip part. No, you use the larger part of the measurement you have on your body to draft the whole of the sleeve. Do you understand? So I'm just cross-checking my measurement and I realized that 1/4 of an inch was missing, so I had to add it back. So what I did, I marked my hip measurement. I added 3.5 as the freeness, how big I want it to be. Then I added 1.5 of an inch for seam allowance. Do you understand? So now the measurement, now I'm going to extend it to the hem of the top. Now the full length I want for the top is 30 inches, but I marked 32 inches because I'll be folding with 2 inches, like I'll be folding the hem with 2 inches, right? So this is me just connecting. Now the same measurements now that we have on that sleeve line, that we impute on the sleeve line, is same thing we are imputing straight to the hem of the top because it's a straight top. So you don't make any parts bigger than the other, or you want to make any kind of curve. No, that's not the pattern of this top. Everything is straight. That's why I use the biggest part of my measurement, which is my hip measurement, to impute on it straight to the hem. So now I want to connect the armhole line, and from that measurement I made, I went down by 1 inch to serve as a guide for me to curve it. You know how we curve our armhole now, you come up by 1 inch. The same thing I did in that place. So for the neck depth for the front pattern, I used 3.5. So I will just go ahead and connect the 3.5 like this with my ruler. You can see what I'm doing. So after that, like this, you can see that the this thing is folded into 4. So after that, we are basically done with the front pattern. So I will go ahead and cut it out. After cutting it out, we can go straight to the trouser part. If there's any part you don't understand, you can ask questions, but I believe that this video is simple enough for us to actually understand. So the first part I will have to do now is to cut out the back neckline, right? Then I will cut the shoulder slope. After cutting the shoulder slope, I will now separate the front from the back. Then I will go ahead and cut the the front neckline, which is 3.5 of an inch. So I'm using this part for the front neckline. So the 3.5 of an inch that we've connected for the shoulder, now I will just go ahead and cut it out. Then after cutting it out, the next thing we'll be doing now is to cut this thing. We have to cut the facing. We have to cut facing for it. I don't want to use bias to pipe it. I want facing. So we'll go ahead and cut facing. So for the front, you can see that it has a slit. So the slit, the full slit I did now is 6 inches. You know, we've already removed 3.5. So I'm placing my tape at that place from 3.5 to go down to make it 6 inches. So I will slit the center to the 6 inches I've just marked. So after that, this is what it looks like. You can see what we've just done. So the next thing now is to go ahead and cut our facing. So I will just go ahead and fold another material for the facing so that we can use it to turn it before we go to the trouser part of it. So now we'll be cutting facing for both the front and the back of this top. So this is the material I'm using for the facing. So I will just place the material appropriately, then I will cut the neckline out. So after cutting it this way, now my facing is ready, but do I want it square like this? I will just go ahead and curve it like anyhow I want it. You can leave it square, it depends on you, but I prefer it this way. So the facing for the front pattern is ready. Now one thing you need to take note of is that you have to make sure that the facing you are cutting for the front pattern is longer than where the front slit ended. Do you understand? Make it longer, please, like 2 inches or more. So now for the back pattern, we'll go ahead and cut facing for the back pattern also, and after that we can go ahead and do the trouser part of it. So this is me just arranging my material properly. So after you've placed your material, you see how I'm placing my material to cut the facing. In case you don't know how to cut your facing, that's why I'm showing us this part. So you just cut everything out. So the next thing now will be going straight to the trouser part. We have to cut the trouser, then we can now go straight to sewing everything together. So this is the trouser part. Now the thing is, I already have my trouser pattern for straight palazzo. Now if you don't have this, please, I'll be dropping the link to this video in the description box. Please go and watch it, because if I should start drafting and all that, it's going to take us more than 1 hour to get this video done. So you can see how I'm pinning it down. Why am I pinning it? The trouser we are making has elastic band, right? And this pattern you see on my material is for a zipper pattern. So the next thing you have to do now, if you want to make a trouser that has elastic band, you make sure that you are using the hip measurement for the waist. Do you get? Now you can see that our pattern already has the curve because I used my waist measurement for that part. So the only thing we need to do here now is to connect the waist straight back to the hip, imputing the hip measurement back on the waistline. Do you get? So now the hip measurement and the waist measurement, they become equal. So I will come to the side and add an extra 1/2 of an inch straight down through to the curve to the tile line where the other pattern, like the palazzo I did for it, started from. Do you get? Why am I doing this? I don't want the trouser to be fitted. Hope you understand. So if you want yours to be fitted, you can use your normal draft, or you don't add any inches at all to it. But I don't want mine to be fitted, that's why I'm adding extra half an inch. Then also to the side also, I will go ahead and add half an inch to the side also, because I don't want it tight on me. It's a free trouser with elastic band. So please, you can see that I'm adding the half an inch. What I'm telling you now is that the only thing I came here to do is to make sure that my hip measurement and the waist measurement is the same thing. Then I added half an inch and connected it to the towel line. Can you see what I'm doing? I connected it to the towel line because that's where the other palazzo started from. So I have to align the lines. Hope you understand. So if you don't know how to draft your straight palazzo trouser, I'll be dropping the link in the description box for us. I also have a perfect pattern draft for your pencil trouser. I will also be dropping the link in the description box for us, those of us that does not know how to do it. But if you already know how to do it, this part of the video will be much easier for you to understand. So I will just go ahead and cut everything now. Don't forget, I'm using the pattern of the palazzo trouser that I have already uploaded on the channel for us. So the only difference is that the waist and the hip is different with extra half an inch. So the next thing we'll be doing now is to cut the back pattern. So for the back pattern, you see how I'm pinning it down, then you add 2 inches to the waistline, like the crotch part of the trouser. You add 2 inches to it. You can see what I'm doing. You add 2 inches to it straight to the hip line. Then on the crotch line, you can see that we extended the front crotch line. If you go to wash that pattern, we extended the front crotch line with 2.5 of an inch. So the back will be 3 inches. You add half an inch to it to extend the back crotch line. So what I'm just doing is to add 2 inches all the way to the back, from the crotch to the hem of the back pattern. Do you understand? So I'm not doing anything other than that. It is just the 2 inches I'm adding round. If you're used to trouser pattern, this part will be very easy for you to understand. But if you don't know how to draft your trouser, the link will be in the description box for you. So you can see how I'm connecting the 2 inches that I'm adding all the way to the bottom of the trouser. So now this is for the back. You'll be asking, why am I not having the back pattern separately? It's because I drafted the front and the back together, and when I was cutting on my material to sew on the straight palazzo trouser, I already cut the back pattern away. So the only difference between the front and the back pattern is this extra 2 inches I'm adding from the waist to the hem of the trouser. So the next thing you have to do now, at the top of your trouser, the back part have to be higher on the waist part by 2 inches. So from that waistline, I will come up by 2 inches. Can you see what I'm doing? Then from that 2 inches now, I will connect it straight to the side, to the main waistline. Do you understand? Now the reason why we do this is because when you sit down, your trouser tends to pull down. So if you don't make the center back higher, your on this might be showing. Do you understand? That's why we do that. So after that, this is all about the trouser pattern. So I will just cut everything. Then after cutting, we'll go straight to cutting the pocket of the trouser. So we'll be doing the sewing and everything together. So if you find this video helpful, or you find any of my video helpful, please don't forget to subscribe, don't forget to like and comment, don't forget to share. I really appreciate your support. Please don't forget to share. So I'm just going ahead to cut everything out. So after cutting everything away, I will go ahead to cut the pocket for the front, because you see from the beginning of the video it has pockets. So we'll go ahead to do the pocket. We'll cut the pocket, and we'll also be sewing the pockets together. So for the sides also, I will cut everything out. So please, in case you're confused, the only thing we did here is to add the extra 2 inches for the back, is to add it to it. So I used the front pattern to cut the back, but I added the extra 2 inches. Take note of that. So this is the front pattern. Now from the side of the front, I will go in by 2 inches, then I will come down by 5 inches. So after that, I will now connect with my straight ruler. If you don't want it straight, you can use your curve ruler to connect it. It depends on what you want. It depends on how you want it. So you can see what I'm doing. Now I have the two pieces of the front part together. The two pieces are attached together. So after cutting it away like this, the next thing I will be doing now, I will cut my material into 4 pieces. So these are my material. I've gone ahead to cut squarely. So the width of this material is about 8 inches. Then the depth, like the full length, you can see that I have 4 pieces. That's what I'm showing us. I have 4 pieces. So I will take 2 away because it is only 2 that I'm going to be cutting, the same way we cut on the trouser, right? So I will go down by 5 inches and I will come to the side by 2 inches. Then I'll connect with ruler, same way we did for the main trouser. Now the width of the pocket is about 8 inches. Then the depth is 10.5. That's how deep I want it. If you want yours wider or deeper than this, it totally depends on you. So the next thing now is to cut it. Don't forget that I have 4 pieces cut into square. Then I separated 2 away. Then I'm now cutting 2 exactly how we cut on the trouser pattern. Please don't forget that. So the next thing now is to attach the pocket to the trouser. So you can see how I'm placing it. I will go ahead to the machine and I will run a straight stitch on the part where we did the slant cutting, right? So I will go ahead and run a straight stitch. So for the other part, I will also do the same thing for it. So I will go to my machine and run a straight stitch. So after running that, I will come back to show us, then we'll go to the next step. So I've gone ahead to do that. Now the next part I want to show us is to top stitch. You have to top stitch it so that the lining will not be pulling out. The lining will remain inside the body of the trouser. Do you understand? So you can see how I'm separating it, because you're going to be sewing on that main part we're using, joining the pocket and the trouser together. But you have to make sure that the join part is facing the pocket part. Do you understand? So this is what I've gone ahead to do. I've done, can you see what I've done? So this is it, done already. So the next part now is to use this other part of the material that we did not cut, like we didn't touch at all. We have to join it to this one. So you'll be placing the material right side facing the right side. You can see what I'm doing. So you have to make sure that they are equal, right? So the next thing I will be doing now is I'm just pinning it down to show us what it looks like. So I will turn it to the other side so that you see exactly what we are doing, so that you can understand it also. So the next thing I will be doing now is to go ahead and sew. I'll go ahead to the machine and I'll sew. So I will remove my pins. I will go to the machine and sew from this edge straight to the other side. Then on the upper part, I will press it down to the main trouser. Then I will come back and show us the next thing to do. So I've done that. I've gone ahead to sew it round. Can you see? I've sewn it round. So the next thing now, you see the side. We have to sew everything, press everything down. For the other pattern too, it is the same thing I did. I've gone ahead to press it all down. We've sewn everything, so the pocket is ready. So the next part we'll be doing now is for us to join the crotch parts together, like the center front, which has the crotch extension. When you are sewing your trouser, like I've always said, this is the first part of the trouser that you have to sew, that you have to join to get an accurate work done. So you go ahead and sew it for both the front and the back. I will first of all go ahead and join the crotch pattern, the crotch part of the trouser. So after joining the crotch part now, this is what we have. You can see that I've joined the both side. For the back and the front, the center of it has been put together. So this is what it looks like. So you see the crotch part now at the middle. Now you pick the front and the back together, then you pin. So I'm showing us again, this is what I've done. You can see the back crotch, you can see the front crotch. So you place them on top of each other, you bring the crotch together. You see the stitch line you use in joining the both crotch, pin it together, make sure the lines are matching. So when you go to your machine, you start your sewing from this crotch part that you've pinned straight down. After you sewed one side down, after you sew one side down like this, you will also go to the other side. From the crotch part again, you will sew it straight down. Then you go to the sides and join the both sides together. Please take note of that. So after doing that, this is what we have. I've gone ahead to join everything together. It's remaining the sides, so I'll go ahead and also join the sides together. So after joining the side now, the next thing will be the band. You can see that I've joined the sides, and as at when I was working with this, I've not ironed the dress, even from the beginning of the video that you saw. So to get the band now, you have to measure the waist round. So you can see what I'm doing. I'm measuring the waist round. So whatsoever I get from the waist is what I will use to cut the full length of the band I'm working with. So I'm measuring it again, as you can see me do. It's because I want to be sure. I just want to confirm what I have measured to make sure that I don't cut a band that is smaller than it. So now let's assume you get 50 inches for your band. You are going ahead to cut about 51 inches, right? Because you'll be using half inch from each side, which is 1 inch to join. Do you understand? So this is the band I have with me. You can see me cross-checking, and it's exactly what I want. So the next thing now, the weight of the band I'm using is 5 inches. Now you'll be asking me that, oh, because I'm using a band, why did I remove the band measurement from the trouser? I don't do that because all my trousers that I make for myself, I prefer them to be high waist because I have big tummy. So it suits me better when the waist of the trouser is high. So you can see what I'm doing now. From the front now, the center front, I have to open it a little for me to be able to attach the band, because I don't want an extended seam, an extended part of joining showing on the band alone. Do you understand? So I'm losing the center front. Hope you can see what I'm doing. So after losing the center front, I'll go ahead and place the band like this. Can you see? Then I will run it round. So I'm just cross-checking the width of the band, and I realize that a part of it is bigger than the other side, so I'm just correcting it. So after correcting it, I will go back to attach the band to the trouser. So you can see what I'm doing. I've gone ahead to remove the excesses from it. So the next thing now, we're going back to the center of the trouser, like the front, the center front of the trouser that I've already opened up. It is from there now you will place your band. Then I will sew it around it. So this is it. I've gone ahead to do that. Can you see? You can see the opening at the center front, right? So now I will place it together and run a straight stitch. Do you get? I will just go ahead and run a straight stitch. So this is it after running a straight stitch. Why am I doing this? Is because I want to conceal the joining that the band will bring. Do you understand? That's why I did that. So the next thing now is to fold the band. So I'm just looking for the right part for us to see it properly. So I will just go ahead and fold the band. Can you see what I'm doing? Like this. I'll fold it round. So this is how I'll fold the whole band round before going to the machine. I'll be taking us to the machine to show us how I'm going to sew it also. So I'll just go ahead and pin everything. Then after pinning, we will go right into the machine and sew. So this is it. I've already gone ahead to pin. You can see that I've pinned it round. Everything completely pinned down. So I'm still, you can see at the front, I'm just making a mark, like at where I will start my stitch from, because I will not finish sewing everything because I'm passing an elastic through it. Do you understand? So the mark I made is where the stitches will start and where the stitches will stop, because I will be passing my elastic through that hole before closing it. So you can see what I'm doing, that I'm sewing from the right side of the trouser, and what I'm sewing on is the exact same line that we use in joining the band before folding it. It is that exact same line I'm sewing on because I don't want thread showing, so I'm still sewing on the other parts that we use in joining. Do you understand? So I will just go ahead and sew everything. After sewing the whole thing like this, then we'll go ahead and fix the elastic. Then we can go and sew the top part. So this is the elastic, and I guess we all know how to fix our elastic. So you see that hole that I left, like the small space I left at the beginning. Can you see the small space? So that's where I will pass my elastic through. So I will just do it round, go to the machine, stitch it together. So this is the elastic. This is how I stitch it. I place it on top of each other to stitch. Do you understand? So now I will just go ahead. That hole that I use in passing the elastic, I will go back to the machine and run it down, like cover it up. So I will go back and cover it up. Then I will hem the length, the hem of the trouser. Then we can go to the shirt part. So this is the shirt part. We have to attach the facing to the front pattern. So this is the facing for the front pattern. Now if you notice, I didn't create the slit for the front pattern facing yet. That's because I will do that after sewing it. So this is me pinning it down. Make sure that the front part of the material is facing the front, but like the right part of the material is facing the right part of the facing that you're using. So this is me just pinning everything down. I'll be taking us to the machine to show us how I want to do this part. Then we'll also just go ahead and turn the back with the facing. So the next thing now is to go to the machine and sew the front facing together, because I want to show us how I will be doing the slit part that I cut out. So I'm just pinning everything in place. Make sure that it is in place so that my work will be accurate. So after doing this, we'll go to the machine. So here I am in my sewing machine. So the first thing I will be doing now is to join the facing from the shoulder line. You can see what I'm doing, from the shoulder line straight to the center where there is straight stitch, right? So after we get to that place, leaving like a quarter of an inch, I will turn it to sew it straight down to where the stitch, to the end of the stitch. I will go down a little bit, like half an inch or quarter of an inch below where the stitch stopped. Then I will make a V. I will make a V stitch. Do you get? Because I will be notching it. So I'll go ahead and make a V stitch. You can see what I'm doing. I will turn it the other way around and sew it straight to the neckline also, then to the shoulder part. Then we're done with the facing. So the next thing now, you can go ahead and just do your back facing. Just use it to turn, then you go ahead and notch. I'll go ahead and to notch the front pattern, then I'll pull it up. Then we'll also do another stitch on it to hold it down. Do you understand? So the next thing we'll be doing is to notch it round. So after notching, the next part will be to press it down. After notching, you will turn it to the other side. Then you see the neckline now. I'm just pressing it down by running a very tiny stitch on it. So I'll press it straight to where I have the slit I made downwards. You can see what I'm doing. So you arrange your fabric very well, then you press it. You can see how I'm doing it. You turn it to the other side and also press it straight to the neckline. So after doing that, now we'll go ahead and join both the front and the back together. You might have torn your you might have used your back facing for your back pattern also. You see the same thing we did for the front with the facing. Just go ahead and do the same thing for the back. So this is the front and the back pattern. This is the back pattern. You can see I've attached the facing, and I also went ahead to run the tiny stitch I did for the front. So the next thing I will be joining the shoulder together. After joining the shoulder, we'll go ahead and join the sides. After joining the side, I will come back and show us. So this is the outcome. I've folded the sleeve and I've done the hem. Hope this video was helpful.